Imposter syndrome is the cleverly disguised fear that we are not good enough trying to be responsible. Trying to be responsible by holding ourselves back. But the truth is that you are good enough. And that there is a reason why you feel called to share your gifts as a light worker. This voice of fear that has been holding you back doesn't have to control you, because perfection isn't required in order to start. When we're able to accept where we are, we don't need to force ourselves to be overly positive. And in that state of neutrality, we stop reacting to situations within the 3D. And we start to reclaim our power as conscious creators in order to respond rather than react. And in that response is your true responsibility. And so what the imposter syndrome really is just the resistance to failing. But if you follow the inspiration, and even if the results don't at first yield the fruit that you want them to bear, that doesn't mean you're failing. That just means that you're receiving feedback from the universe, from the field, and from what you're putting out into the world. But if you don't give yourself the chance to be seen by being willing to fail, by being willing to be misunderstood, then you can get caught in a stagnation energy. Your creative energy starts to stagnate, right? And I know what this feels like. It's this feeling of unease. It's a feeling of anxiety. But see, Lightworker, you're here to transmute that. This is one of your gifts of the collective. There's nothing wrong with you. And it's not that you're an imposter. It's that you're actually tuning into a fear frequency within the collective. And if you feel like this is something that you can relate with, if you feel like this is something that has been holding you back from sharing your voice, from sharing your gifts with others, from consciously creating content online, or even building your business, well, you're not alone. And I just want to debunk this whole imposter syndrome thing. Because the only reason that we feel like is an imposter is just because we don't yet feel fully comfortable embodying this new version of ourselves. But that discomfort doesn't mean that you're an imposter. It means that you're leaning into your edge of growth that is allowing that trigger to arise. And because many of us have a persecution imprint from past lives, or even from our past in this life. If you're watching my video, I'm sure for obvious reasons, being persecuted for speaking your truth, for sharing your gifts, for being intuitive. And so that arises when you start to address visibility, when you start to address like putting yourself out there or being confident. And part of transmuting unease, right, is through our intuition. And the way that we free ourselves from this pattern of feeling stuck is by trusting our intuition and allowing it to guide us. And the intuition is always guiding us. You're always getting these nudges, these downloads, and these synchronicities. Though when you're doubting them, that's when you start going into your head and overthinking it. That's when you put off making the video, the art, whatever it is. And this feeling of being stuck, we can create a space in order to heal that. And that space is through stillness and through slowing down and being present in the moment. Because as we are able to start to hear the still small voice, to hear our intuition. Because like I say, though some of us may be talented intuitives, the intuition is a skill that anybody can learn because we all are intuitive. And so when we cultivate this space to be able to hear our guidance and start to trust in that, it will send us inspirations and creative impulses that will lean us in to our edge of evolution. And one of those edges for healing, quote unquote, really just letting go of imposter syndrome is the clearing of this persecution wound. You could also call it a witch wound. And part of the medicine of that is just a little bit of the poison. Like, you know how they say for a snake bite, they make the antidote out of just a little bit of poison from the snake, and they make the antidote out of that. It's kind of like when you start leaning into your true self, into manifesting your dream life, into being this new version of yourself, into speaking your truth, to shining your light, that if others don't understand you and it is bringing up that wound of not being understood, well, at least you put yourself out there. And by that coming up, it can be transmuted. And this is something that I experienced in creating this channel. And I've had a few different versions of sharing online since 2016 when I first started. And I have received backlash from people. And a big part of, sharing my voice and in the ways that I do, talk about the things that I do talk about, which aren't normal for everyone, was confronting that fear that others weren't going to get it or weren't going to like me or that I wasn't good enough. And so that's what I really think is underneath it, is the fear of not being good enough. But really, you are. And there isn't anything for you to prove here. Because when we're able to slow down and we're able to do the shadow work and we're able to do the clearing, we come to realize that we are the light, we are the consciousness, we are the source. And just by being you and giving yourself the permission for your mission to show up and follow this creative spark, that is how you move out of being creatively blocked. And another way to do this is to when you make space to hear guidance, write down what comes through. Those nudges are instructions from your soul. And as you do this, you will develop your intuition. Another powerful practice for developing your intuition is automatic writing. And the way that you do this, if whether or not you're familiar with this, I'll just recap it, which is basically sit down either at your keyboard or your phone, or if you like to dictate, if you like to write with pen and paper, however you like to do it, just go stream of consciousness. And you can also start with a prompt. You could start with a question and then just write down what comes through. You can even ask your spirit guides or consciousness, whatever you believe in. And what that will do is that will start to open up your channel for communication with the higher realms or your higher self. Because, and what you do, you don't edit it. You just let what wants to come through. And then when you read back through it, you will get downloads and instructions on what next steps to take. And then if you start taking those steps that are coming to you, if you start taking even small steps every day, this will start to compound, right? It's the principle of compounding. The more you do something, the better you get at it. And the more confident you will become. And so just remember that you're not behind, right? You're not anywhere other than where you're meant to be. You are a messenger. You are meant to bring through solutions. And this universal intelligence is accessible within you. And so you can actually serve the world by being yourself. And right before I did this, I pulled out a card from the Starseed Oracle. Double mission. Lightworker Starseed, serve the world by being you. And so by giving yourself the permission to follow the impulses, that is like training a muscle. And that's what allows you to get more and more into the flow state. That's what allows you to move out of doubt and into clarity. Because if we don't share our truth, right, we stagnate. And even if there's this uncomfortable period, by having the courage to lean into the unknown, to step through into this next chapter of your life, all of these magnificent blessings and miracles and divine synchronicity and orchestration are here for you. And when you lean into the mystery and you say yes to life, you say yes to your calling, and you have the courage to step through this unknown, that is how you have confidence beyond confidence. That is how you have self-assuredness. And that when you have self-assuredness, you have nothing to prove because you are your true self. And your true self is already good enough. So, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to Earth. Thank you for showing up and sharing your gifts. And if any of this is something that you would like more support with me, there's a link below that you can click on to apply to work with me. And we'll get on a clarity call, see what it is that you're working through, what it is that you're looking to create, and how I might be able to help you with that. I find that when we have a mirror, it can help us to clear. And again, even if you're not perfect, by showing up in the process, at least you give yourself the permission to explore your creativity to develop your intuition and to follow your purpose. And so that is even more powerful than perfection, because that's the willingness to be vulnerable. That's the willingness to be authentic. And that is the most magnetic thing that you can become. Because this is not a process of, I want to say, improvement. Even though you do get better with practice, it's more of a discovery. It's like you already know what it is you're here to do. You just need to give yourself the permission to lean in to the mystery, to trust in the synchronicities and in your intuition, and your intuition will lead you to the clarity. And the clarity precedes the offering. The clarity precedes the art. The clarity precedes the words. And so the most powerful thing you can do is become a clear channel for what wants to come through, to come into a state of clarity and remember why you came. Peace, and I will see you in the next video.